But I used to always, teach y'all the truth is gonna stand when you tell the truth. You don't have to have a good memory and lie because the truth's gonna stand alone. And lies have a little legs. It's just a matter of time before they catch up with you.
Yeah. Learn and live in love. Learn, live in love. Yeah. Come on. Let's talk about real life, everyday situations. Everyday situation. We come to build up our brother and real life relationships. Let's come together and take a stand in our household. Welcome to the Backbone Show. Yeah. Welcome you. Welcome to the Backbone Show. To the Backbone Show. Oh. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Backbone Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, as you guys know, the most notable story, probably pretty much right now, besides Meghan Markle, is Kirk Franklin and his son Kerrion Franklin that's been going crazy. They both putting out information. Kirk trying to do cleanup, whatever. We got a lot going on right now, but I know and I believe that there's hope for them two men, grown men, I should say. And based on what I've been through in my life, and I want to give you guys a little bit a little bit perspective of what I've been through, not only with myself, but with my father. It's my dad right here, the fourth oldest. What's going on, Dad? You doing all right?
Hey, Mel. The fifth oldest.
Yeah, and I kind of want to start with that, Dad, just to give people a little background of us. I want to ask you, how was I as a child? Not, the other video we did, you kind of gave a little synopsis, but I want to know, like, specifically behavior-wise, like, how was I as a child, just from a father perspective?
Yeah, Jamel was a good kid. But I was surprised in going to his school one time that the teachers gave some bad reports on him. And I told him if it had been just one teacher or one racer teacher, I might would have thought it was something up. But because it was multiple teachers and multiple races of teachers, I said there's something to this. So I said he's clowning and acting up in class, and I always thought I was a good little boy. I had my troubles, but I thought that everything was cool with him at school. But then I found out something was different. So I said we might have to change up some things because I'm getting a surprisingly bad report. But he was just kind of a person that kind of was a clown and just acted up in different ways. And very inquisitive, like most little boys, and then when I found that out, I said we're gonna have to change some things, and I'm gonna have to tighten up. Right. But then he changed and he turned it around and turned into a godly man. And his mom used to always call him a little preacher. Then he started doing some preaching, and so we were very proud of him. And of course, he was my drummer for 15 years. So everybody that has him now, I had him first.
No doubt.
Very proud of him for that as well, and very proud of him the way he's developed into a great young man and spending time with his dad and his grandparents.
No doubt, no doubt.
We are very proud of you, son.
Yeah, and in turn, I wanna give you your flowers and tell you how I believe you were as a father. I couldn't ask. You look back as a child. And you complain about, most kids complaining about their childhood, but it really be some bull crap. Most kids complaining about nothing. So any complaints I've had, looking back, is really about nothing. I mean, because I had a great childhood. When I look back on it, I don't have no complaints, especially from you, because you were the ultimate provider, the ultimate provider. You worked countless hours all the time, and any complaints I may have had was maybe because of the opposite, wanting to see maybe somebody be there more, but you gave it your all working. So I wouldn't want the opposite, because if I had a father that was more available, then probably go more days without the lights or more days without food or whatever case may be. But then ultimately, I can't remember in my vivid memory a time you was not there to support me, you know, with anything I've done, you know, and most people can't say that, you know, to have that support, to have those, you know, the moments of, you know, people looking in the stands or looking on in the audience and wondering where their father is, wondering where their mother is. I didn't have a doubt that my dad would be there, you know, and still to this day, you doing that anytime you get the chance. So I never take that for granted. And the thing that, you know, we're going to make it through the video without crying, by the way. We're going to try. But the thing that brings tears to my eyes the most is what you do for me every time you see me, majority of the time, which you say you're proud of me. You know, you said that here I am standing in the stand and stay, you know, in the separation, and you didn't know that at the time, but in the separation and thinking that my life is miserable, you come in there and say, I'm proud of you, you know? So I tell people all the time, my dad will say he proud of me. If I'm standing in a little box, he'll come in that little box, knock on that door and just, you know, whatever. I was about to make a joke. I ain't gonna do it, but he would be there and say he proud of me. Now, so where do you get that from? Because a lot of men that may watch this, I mean, it's hard for a lot of fathers and men in general to show that more of emotional side or to give their kids that type of love. You know, we men pretty good at getting that provider part. I mean, real men pretty good doing that provider part. And a lot of men say, I show you I love you based on, you know, what I do for you. But what do you get that part where you're not afraid to show and say how you feel about your children or how your children are doing?
Yeah, I think it's very important to show and tell them how much you love them and appreciate them. Because I always told y'all when y'all was coming up, and I'm trying not to get emotional too, as long as y'all try to do what's right and do your best, I'll always be proud of you. Because I'm thinking about, you know, you could be on drugs, you could be in jail, you could be in and out of trouble. So I look at the bright side, and so we not always see eye to eye on everything, but I think of the positive things that you've done and the positive things you're still doing, and have you grown to be even better. Some of those things that were lacking and missing early on, you're catching on to it now. So I'm extremely proud of you for that. So, and I always thought of that. I think I got that from my mom's side, and some things I got from my dad's side. My mom was kind that was always there for us, and my dad, when he was always there as a provider, but he didn't come to stuff like school and plays and different things like that until he got saved. Then when he got saved, he started coming to stuff like that, coming to check on us at school and different things like that. But that makes a difference, and I learned this from my wife now, the difference that a father figure makes. So I'm giving a shout out to all the fathers. It's not too late to try to make up amends for the lost time. Be there for your kids. If you can't be there in the same household, be there in some way, shape, or form for your kids, because believe me, it makes a difference. And you can tell the difference between people who didn't have fathers in their life. But on the other hand, there's no excuses either, because a lot of people didn't have fathers and didn't have good father figures, or any parents for that matter, but they still turned out to be successful and have good godly success. So don't make excuses because you don't have a father. But fathers, you do play a major role regardless to what anybody says.
Absolutely. I'm gonna say this real quick about Papa. He talked to me one time, and he said he admired what me and you have now, and he's making up for that to a certain extent, because he admits that he wasn't as emotionally available when you were younger, you know. And I've seen, like, over recent years, y'all two relationship grow and everything, because I've seen pictures, and I told myself when I saw this picture, I told myself, this is one generational thing I'm not going to continue, because it was around the time me and you wasn't seeing eye to eye. I'm about to go into that next, but around the time me and you weren't seeing eye to eye on some things, that I seen a picture of Papa and his dad, and the picture was Papa looking excited to see, you know, be in the picture, like smiling hard, and saying, you know, oldest, what's that, the second, like a real dry face. But I go to the next picture. He with his daughters. He hugged all on them. Now it could have been coincidence. He wasn't ready for the picture or whatever. But the trend that I said I want to stop is making sure I'm emotionally available for my child, and especially if I have a son, you know. So, but I want to go into, because we're talking about this Kirk Franklin situation. Are you kind of caught up on the Kirk Franklin situation, or
no? What's going on? I just heard he went off on a tirade, a cursing tirade. That's about it.
Yeah. So basically, you know, he has an older son named Kerryon, and I remember him like in the early videos of Kirk. I was coming around like the "What You Looking For" video, and the Back in the Family days, Kirk Franklin in the Family days. So I remember him, but he's 33 now, and apparently him and Kirk has always had a volatile relationship. It's something going on that they're not saying that's going on with him, but apparently they've always had a bad relationship. And he called Kirk one day. Well, we don't know what happened with the whole recording, but he's released a recording of a conversation they had where it's chopped up recording, so you don't know what preceded it or what came after. But basically, Kirk is cussing him out, saying, you know, the kind of the worst of the worst stuff, but it's you know, but he recorded it and he released it because, you know, he basically saying some issues going on, maybe mentally or whatever the case may be, but he just trying to get out on him. So Kirk came out and apologized. One of those infamous, "I'm not human," you know, one of those. That's my worst apology in the world. You know, he kind of really didn't take a lot of ownership other than for the cussing, you know, but it's a lot of nuances that we don't know about. And then it's been a more recent recording that his son released. You know, Kirk on tour right now, trying to clean up, going to every media he can think of. But it's been a recent release of Kerryon alleging that Kirk maybe molesting him at some point or another and abused him physically in other ways. So it's nothing nothing is like concrete on that, but we know for a fact Kirk, you know, cussed him out and everything. But I'm gonna be clear with y'all, we didn't grow up in a cussing house. I can't even really remember my daddy even really raising his voice that often, not at me directly, but I got plenty of whoopings. But it wasn't, it wasn't nothing that was out of the ordinary back in that day. But yeah. I did want to ask you before we get into the main one riff we had. Do you remember probably the only time we ever came face to face, almost going to blows? If I would have knocked Howard down.
Vaguely, refresh my memory.
I don't know what I can't remember my age exactly. I know the teenager, but Mom was going through something, you know, and she wasn't at the house. She was staying overnight, maybe a medical facility or something, and she was calling, and y'all was going through something. So the phone call was tripping. So I came in there in the living room, I guess, and grabbed the phone out your hand, and was like thinking I'm the man and trying to, you know, take care of the situation. Then you follow me, and I was in y'all room watching TV or something. So you follow me in the room, and and I stood up like thinking I'm about to, like I'm about to do something. Then I realized, hold on, that's my dad. I sat down right after that. You remember that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Like when that happens, because a lot of times you have a moment where, and I think it's kind of good to a certain extent, but not in that circumstance. But I think as a young man, you got to kind of find yourself and kind of measure up. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen Lion King, but Simba would always try to play fight with his daddy or some way or another. And for an animal, that's kind of building their strength, you know, finding out who they are. But that's just my perspective as a son. But as a father, that moment where your son is trying to challenge you, like what goes to your head?
Yeah, that pretty much happens with every father, and it's a generational thing from one generation to the other. Right. And I challenged my father verbally one time, and And, if I would have said one more thing, he probably would have went upside my head with his fist.
Right.
So that was the first and the last time. So I'm glad me and you didn't come to fisticuffs, because I know some fathers and sons that have.
No doubt. That's so true. But just to go into just vaguely what me and my dad went about a year almost, you would say, that probably without talking to each other. And it's centered around, my mom and my dad got a divorce, and I was in between. I probably took it harder than anybody. I don't know why. I was already grown, but I've always taken their issues harder than anybody. Like, I don't know why, but I took it hard. And so at the time, I was in between who to believe and leaning more toward my mom's side, I would admit. So just to be real, it was along the lines of Dad finding, his new wife. And to me, it was your birthday party that really set it off. And we over this, so we're just talking about it, just to help maybe heal somebody else. And he was introducing us to my new wonderful, amazing stepmom. Now, what happened, in my perspective, and you can tell any side you would like that we came to the party and we saw her and her family there, me and my siblings. So in our mind, I was getting everybody prepared, because I was like the leader of the flock. I'm getting everybody prepared. All right, y'all, he got a girlfriend, that's fine. He can move on. He grown, he grown. But when he introduced us, he said, I want to introduce y'all to somebody. This is my fiance. And it shocked us first. That's one thing. But when everybody else knew about it at the party, I was like, oh, we don't want to hear that, don't know, So that was the thing that took us back. And then, let me tell you something else that took me back. When certain people that got up to speak was talking to you, and I'm just being real transparent right now, that got up to talk about you. I ain't gonna say nobody's name. They talked to you. That was your 50th birthday party. Mm-hmm. And one man that I know we've been around him for at least 25 years, got there, called you a young man. That pissed me off there. I'm not gonna lie. I already didn't like the guy. But when he called you a young man, I'm like, this is my dad. This is the man I'm looking up to. And you got the nerve to call my dad. And y'all ain't nothing but like, what, maybe 1 or 2 years apart. This young man. It made me so mad. So at my 50th party, somebody do that, I'm gonna get up and slap him. That's just where I am, So it made me just kind of upset that you allowed them to do that too, So anything you want to talk about from that part yet, before we get into the reconciliation, how we came back together?
Yeah, I'm not sure who all knew I was engaged at that point.
Oh, okay.
But I made sure the divorce was final. It drug on for about 2 years. And the reason why I didn't tell y'all all of that up front, because I would have been crushed if y'all hadn't came to the party.
No doubt.
I figured one of y'all or all of y'all would have skipped out if I'd have told y'all that ahead of time.
Yep.
And we kind of debated on, should we tell them, when should we tell them, how should we tell them? But that would have hurt me if y'all hadn't came to my party. So that's why it was done like that. So maybe that's clearing the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my perspective of that.
So now, right. Mm-hmm. So that's water on the bridge. But now what I want to talk about is what I went through as a son, because when the time we wasn't talking. Mm-hmm. I talked about you almost every day. If you don't know, like, somebody heard me say something about you, either a complaint or a memory or something. Somebody heard it, whether it's my ex or people at work or whatever, to the point I had call him a friend or acquaintance or whatever, to the point he was giving me rides to a bus to ride the bus at one point. Every time I get in the car, I'd be like, yeah, man, my dad, I can't believe he ain't called me. I can't believe. I say stuff, just wondering, like, why you hadn't reached out, the whole time. One day, I guess he got fed up. He said, man, ain't you a grown man? Like, Ain't you a grown man? Talk about your dad every day. You call him if you need to, or if you know whatever.
Yeah.
So he said that like something clicked. That was the first time something clicked. Like I am just sitting here crying, like and whining every day instead of doing something about it or leave it alone. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I said about the carry-on situation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you went through with your dad, whatever the case may be. Kirk was basically almost like you, like a teen father. You was what, 19 when I was born?
20.
So like a young father. Kirk, I'm sure they made a lot of mistakes growing up and a lot of issues and stuff. Bro, how long you gonna harbor on to that? How long you gonna hang on to that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So if you could talk about on your side, like what type of thoughts did you have, during that year that we wasn't talking?
Yeah, I reached out to all three of y'all via text, and I pretty much got a negative response from
I
you.
remember that.
And PJ was kind of nonchalant, and I don't even think Precious got the first text. I had to retext her, and but I was kind of giving it time. I was like, I did my part, and then the ball was in your court, and then I felt like time heals all wounds, and we prayed about it and put it in God's hand, and then we saw other people that we're close to going through the same thing. So I feel like if God did it for them, He can do it for me. So we just waited it out, and then I waited till the right time to talk to you. I think around your birthday.
Yeah.
Ironically, I reached out to you when I moved to East Texas and started a new job. So I said, I need your information so I can put you on as a beneficiary.
I answered that quick.
You ever got back in touch with me in years? So okay, he's still smart. No, if something happened to me, he can be somewhat of a beneficiary.
Right.
We reached out to you that way, and then we ended up talking on your birthday, and I kind of let you know why certain things were the way they were with me and your mother, and so some of the things that I tried to do as the man and as the father, no shade on her, but she prevented it. And at a certain point, I got tired, and I kind of had that feeling of it's just a matter of time, because one thing a man is not going to put up with continuously is disrespect, and the other part ain't going to go into the other part. But man, the most important thing for a man is to feel respected. The most important thing for a woman is to feel love, and that's in the Bible,
right? And
that's true. So that once I explained that to you, it seemed like that kind of broke the ice, and we got back on track. And I think me leaving some money over there kind of opened your eyes to some things. She blew up over that, so they ain't trying to tell too much. Yeah. But I think that kind of let you know some things.
No doubt. And so I want to say two things based on what you just said. I agree totally about the respect. I want to say that first, because that's basically what Kirk is saying. You know, like people are asking him, do he feel bad for what he did? Yeah, he feel bad for what he did. And they asked him, do he respect Carry On? They said yes, but I'm not his equal. You know, it got to be the worst feeling in the world for somebody. I mean, yeah, you just said that from your wife, but for your child, somebody you have done everything for, you know, to be disrespecting you, you know, they have to be one of the worst feelings in the world, you know, because they can't live without you. Think about Kirk and how much money this boy got out of Kirk. I mean, anything he want in life is his. I know money is not everything, but it's a lot. What they say, money is the answer to all things. But so that's why the respect. I mean, that's why Kirk is going off the way he is, and I get it. You know, I get it. I don't condone. Well, I don't know if you know or not that I don't got to clean his mouth myself. I don't do it on my on my channel. But when I'm by myself. I want to admit that to you. And the reason I don't is because of you, because you watch so much. If you ain't watching, I'm for real.
You remember that whooping I gave you when you were little?
Oh, let me tell you a story I remember. Just to deviate just a little bit. You remember when Tay had that quarter?
The quarter?
That money I stole from her? You don't remember? That's one of the biggest whoops you gave me. I stole some money from my older sister, and my daddy went to my dad and said, "Hey, he stole my money." So I was lying, you know. I've always been good at lying, so I was lying my butt out, just going like, "No, it's my money, it's my money." So Tay whispered in his ear. You still don't remember? She whispered in your ear, and next thing I know, you asked to see the quarter or to see the money. She had made a dent in the quarter.
Oh yeah,
that's how she knew. Yeah, that was like Oak Cliff days. So yeah, so you gave me the biggest whooping after that because you stole it right then. It wasn't just you stole it; you stole it and lied. And lied. So yeah. That's what made it the worst. But the other thing I want to say, just from the perspective of what you did that day, you know, because it was amazing that you reached out. Because I was at one of my lowest points. Because that's when me and my ex had just separated. I'm living with somebody who making it difficult every day of my life, and it's at a point where I was in between jobs, I believe, and I just didn't know where I was about to go. That was the beginning of this journey that led to me who I am right now. So for you to come, that was like, I mean, the money was needed at the time, but more than anything, it was like my dad reaching out to me, you know, like finally, you know, like I got these distractions. It was kind of after the guy had told me, man, you're a grown man, you know, it was all that leading up to, I was ready at that time. It's like everything had aligned itself perfectly for me, for you to come that day, you know, and for you to reach out and be so open. And then you allowed me to express myself to you, and was, you know, it was kind of a tough conversation, but you accepted it, you know, and that was everything to me. So that's the healing I needed, you know, at that moment, because that let me pursue some things. Because what I had to do is forgive you. Not just for that moment of your birthday party, but I forgave you for history, because I think every man needs to forgive their mom, because most moms are, Dolores, cover your ears. Most moms are just overbearing. They loving, but they overbearing, and they coddle kids. They, you know what I'm saying, they set them up for failure in a lot of ways, and it takes a father there to balance that out, to say, hey, you know, don't do this time, don't do this that time. So a lot of times I harbor anger towards you, because at times mama will be the predominant voice, you know, and just really setting us up for failure and just dominating us all day. You know, we call it the drill sergeant. Like, I ain't trying to talk bad about mom. I'm just saying that's what would happen. And you need that father there, but you know, was so busy with all rights. All praise to you for what you did for working. You were so busy doing that at times that would put either put me in that position to do that for pressuring them, or nobody there to do it. So I forgave you not only for that day at the birthday party, but I also forgave you for harboring hatred towards you, or anger towards you for not being there at times. So that liberated me completely, you know, and
yeah, so that's like what Tyler Perry says: forgiveness is not for the other person; it's for you. It liberates you. It sets you free. And that was good that you did that. And it wasn't nothing I did intentionally wrong towards you. I was, you know, working night and day, so sometimes I didn't know what was going on as much, and then sometimes she wouldn't share with me as much. And allow me to take that proper place as the disciplinary, as in the head of the house. So
that's true.
It works both ways. A man should take charge, but a woman should also allow him to lead. Mm-hmm. So, and if not, it's going to be a clash, and it's not going to be blessed if it's out of order.
That's so true. And yeah, so I mean, since that moment, honestly, that's the best thing about family to me. That it's like if something happened before, but you kind of like pick up in love like it never happened. You know, that's to me when it's real family. At least that's been my experience with our family. That we just and I believe that's what Kirk and Kerryon can have, and that's why Kirk say he keeps answering the phone, because the next time may be that time that everything works out. You know, that the next time may be the opportunity that Kerryon say, "Hey, Dad, I miss you, or I love you," or whatever the case may be. And so he said he keeps doing that. And so overall, just what if you could say anything lastly to any last words to any fathers out there that's in that position, just encouraging and how to stay in that fight, because we have some advisors that would say, "Hey man, just let it go. It's gonna happen. It's gonna work itself out." Like pretty much what you said earlier. Or would you advise to keep calling and keep reaching out? Like which one would you believe that would be the best approach?
Yeah, I believe you should never give up. Keep reaching out, keep praying, keep believing, keep the faith. And I'm gonna say what I heard a superintendent say on this morning from down here, and said regarding hurt. The first thing you got to do is acknowledge the hurt, and don't try to sweep it under the rug, and don't try to be real macho and different things that like stuff don't bother you, because if it bothers you, it bothers you. And it don't matter if it don't bother nobody else, it bothers you. And I learned that, and a lot of mistakes I made being a young man and young husband, that I'm trying to do better now. Even in your marriage or relationship, some things that used to bother me with your mother, I felt like if I showed jealousy, if I showed hatred, that would be weak, and she would think weak of me. But turns out I let it build up, and then I would explode.
Right.
You seen some of my fits of rage, or you seen the results of some of my fits of rage. But I learned, with my new wife, if something is bothering me, go ahead and address it. And a good loving wife and a good loving friend or a good loving child or whoever, they will at least acknowledge that and try to correct that. And I thank God for my wife. When I tell her something is bothering me, she don't keep doing it. Especially if it's something regarding the opposite sex or whatever. And I welcome her to do the same thing to me, because I don't believe in double standards. Right. What I wouldn't do, I shouldn't. What I don't want you to do, I shouldn't do. And that's what makes a relationship strong. And secondly, you got to do the main word that you said today, is forgive. So you have to forgive that person in order for you to heal, and in order for you to move on. And if we want God to forgive us, we have to forgive others, and it don't matter who it is. And lastly, we have to trust God through the process. Trust God through the process, and knowing that if we doing everything according to His word and His will, it's going to work in our favor. Our First Lady said today, all things are going to work together for the good to them that love the Lord. And something good is going to come out of this, even though you having the hurtful times and hurtful situations. You have to know that if you're in God's will, something good is going to come out of this. So I'm thankful that something good came out of both of our hurts, because it hurted me to leave my family after so long. That wasn't an easy task, but I made up my mind, and we mutually agreed. And now I know I'm better off, and I hope all of us are better off. That's your mom is the mother of my 3 kids, so I wish the best for her too. But I know I got the best, so I got the best end of it. Sitting right here next to me. God's a good guy.
Nah, man. If I ain't never said it before, if I ain't never heard me say publicly, I definitely believe you made the right decision. You definitely, got a winner, and winner chicken dinner. But now I love it. Like I tell people all the time, I'm not convinced about a lot of things in this world, but I know the sky blue. I know I love the Mavericks and the Cowboys, and I know the Lord's love you. Like ain't no doubt in my mind. When we planning your birthday last year, the Lord's called me every day or text me or something every day. I'm like, we good, we got it, we good. No, but I loved it, and honestly, from that moment she did that, I started praying for a woman like her. Y'all ain't know I was getting divorced by then, but from that moment, around your birthday, I started praying, Lord, I want a woman that has that loves me for me, and accept me, and so we ain't gonna talk about
it. Me, he'll do it for you.
Do it. Thank you, Lord. But yeah, so I really hope this helps somebody. It definitely shows that there's hope out there. I mean, and I'm gonna say this last thing here that for any children out there, there's always more than one side of the story. Sure. That's what you need to know. More than anything, it's always more than one side of the story. So, Kerrion, actually, his mother, and Kurt and Tammy, Kurt's current wife, are extremely close. They get along. So my first thought was, oh man, his mama raised him to hate Kurt. That was my first thought. You know how I feel about black women. So, but that's not the case. She came out her own video and came out and said she's 100% behind Kurt. So it's something going on, but we don't know. But whatever perception and the mindset Kerrion has about his entire upbringing, he has to be healed first of all, but he also needs to hear and listen to his parents' side of the story. Because I don't know if he treats her like that, but I know for sure every time him and Kurt interact with each other, it's chaos. So what happened for me, I had to learn and hear your side of the story, and it helped that I was going through my own stuff at the time. So that's what it really helps. My friend saying, "Ain't you a man?" Then I start going through manly stuff. And manly stuff, I mean the turmoil a woman can take you through. And then, so I was able to identify and relate, and put myself in your shoes. Then I got a whole different perception about the entire thing. So with that, I really appreciate you for joining me. You have any last words you want to say at all?
I really want to say I appreciate you and love you, man. Wish you all the best.
Love you too, Dad. I really appreciate it. Hope y'all have a great rest of the day.
All right.
Talk to you later.
We come to build up our brother and build life relationships. Let's come together and take a stand in our household. Welcome to the Backbone Show. Yeah.
We welcome you.
Welcome to the Backbone Show.
To the Backbone Show.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go.